This is Terminator Resistance for the PlayStation 4, developed by Teon and published by Reef Entertainment in 2019. Terminator Resistance is a first-person shooter adventure game based on the Terminator franchise. There have been a handful of Terminator games out there over the years, but this one feels really different. At least different than what I've seen so far. We have a first-person environment, but it doesn't feel like it's right to call this game a first-person shooter. It's really a solo affair, and it doesn't feel like it's too directly connected to core shooters like Halo or Call of Duty, where you're killing tons and tons of things. This one maybe is a bit more like Dishonored or Thief, perhaps? There's plenty of stealth and sneaking here, that's for sure. I think the first-person environment works really well with the Terminator property, and I was happy when I started playing this game, and I first found out they weren't trying to recreate the wheel. They weren't trying to redefine the first-person genre in any real way. When I picked up the controller, every button that I pressed was pretty much muscle memory from prior first-person games. I found myself running around, ducking and jumping over things, and it was fairly comfortable to get around. I can't tell you how much of a relief that was. I don't like fighting with controls, and I feel like there have been enough first-person shooter games out there to prove that controls should operate in a particular fashion. This one doesn't stray from that, and I'm grateful. When I first put in the disc, it did require a 6GB update, which I know isn't as bad as some games out there, but I still don't like it. I know developers love this ability to put out an update so quick, but an update of this size tells me that this game needed more time in the oven before it was released. Of course, this is the way it is for all modern games, so I live with it, but I don't like it. One of the other things that I appreciate, something that I noticed early on, was that the game wasn't always going to take place at night. I've seen all the Terminator movies, and any time they reference the war in the future, which is where we are with this game, it's always in the middle of a firefight, tons of stuff is on fire, and it's pitch black in the middle of the night. I can't remember one fight scene that was in the middle of the day. It was always a future that was referenced in darkness. But here, after the initial tutorial level, you're running around in the daylight. That seemed really new to me for this property. It just felt fresh, and it works. There are also a few things in this game that I really wasn't expecting, and I really like. I think this game feels a little bit like some of the Fallout games. The way the NPCs look and act, the way the scenery looks, things are going to be decayed, falling apart. It's a nasty war zone, just like you would expect from the subject matter. You also get to pick locks, and you use that to get through certain doors or into chests, which is actually really similar to the way Fallout does it. You can also hack terminals and turrets. They make you play this little mini-game to do it, which is just kind of like Frogger, actually, but it works as a mechanic. You hack into a terminal to open a door, it's great and everything, but when you can hack a turret to attack other machines, that's pretty great. A turret can really get you out of a jam if you time it right. There's also a focus on scavenging as you race around the maps. Whether you're finding a medical kit or just the individual components that you can use for trade or crafting, you should always be on the lookout for stuff to pick up. When you find a crafting table, you can make medical supplies, ammunition, explosives, things you're going to find useful in this world. There are also skill trees you upgrade as you play, which does certainly help you hold more stuff, it helps you sneak better, and you can build new things or use different weapons. You don't gather these skill points quickly, but they're certainly valuable when you get them. It's kind of a natural progression, the way, as you go through the different levels, you're naturally going to be upgrading. I think getting some levels to your carrying capacity is probably the most important, at least the most important to me, and then after that, working on the first few crafting levels. As far as enemies go, there's definitely a finite variety of enemies here. 6, 7 machines, maybe, but it does feel like it's enough. I played this game for 2 or 3 hours at first, scavenging and destroying various robot machines before I actually finally ran into a Terminator. I have to say, when that finally happened, I was really keyed up to run into one, because they're close to indestructible in the movies. Here, when I first saw one walking around, I tossed a few explosives at it and destroyed it, so I was feeling on top of the world. Suddenly, Terminators weren't indestructible. I was feeling pretty good about this fact, and then I took one out with a shotgun to the face, and that felt great. until I realized that a shotgun only knocks them down and does no damage. So, yeah, these Terminators are sufficiently tough. Back to sneaking and running. Eventually you're going to get more powerful weapons, of course, and the Terminators do become defeatable, but it's never going to be really easy, at least as far as I've gotten into this game. The game missions are basically maps with various mission points. You're going to have some side missions usually, and you have primary objectives as you wander around. And although these maps are interesting, this is not an open world game, and the maps are never really gigantic. I do get a slight claustrophobic feeling on some of these levels, and I found myself wishing I had a little bit more freedom. I've said this on other reviews. If I'm in a room and I see a small platform in front of me, I should be able to climb over it. When I can't, it takes me right out of the experience. You need to be careful and calculate your progressions through these different stages or maps. You probably don't want to just run around everywhere. There is danger that you don't want to run into, especially considering there's a loading time every time you have to restart a level. So, if you run into a level and die within 10 seconds, you're going to be waiting a minute to get that level restarted again. The loading time in cases like this is definitely a bummer. It stands out. I don't know, maybe it's different on the PS5 version. I know they have a newer, upgraded version. As far as sneaking and hidden dangers go, you're going to be constantly switching back and forth between your regular vision and these goggles that have what's called ultra vision. It's just this assisted vision that lights up machines in the darkness. It's kind of like infrared, I guess, and it's super useful to see machines hidden, or especially when they're in the darkness, you know where they are all of a sudden. It also adds to the terror. It's crazy to be hiding behind a demolished car, and then when you turn on your goggles and you can suddenly see through things, you see the outline of a dozen Terminators walking right next to you. This game definitely isn't like other shooters, though. You just can't pop out from cover and wipe out a Terminator with a quick shot, and you cannot easily run away from most of them. They're going to gun you down. You're going to have to pay attention to where they are and plan your ambush, or really pay attention to sneaking around certain zones. I don't think you'll survive too long if you don't. As far as game length goes, I'm seeing walkthroughs that seem to be getting through this game in 5 to 7 hours, depending. Now, I'm certainly more than halfway through this game right now, and I've clocked in more hours than that. I imagine once I go through it, though, another run isn't going to be that time-consuming. Right now I'm trying to take and scavenge everything. As far as the story goes, I'm somewhere past the halfway point, and so far the plot is pretty much what I was expecting. You're a resistance fighter, and you're trying to get ahead of this Terminator Skynet offensive. You do encounter a new type of Terminator. Of course you do. And you need to figure out how to deal with it. I'm sure there's going to be more to this plot, but like I said, I'm I don't know, 60% of the way through maybe? But that is a basic description as to what's going on. Maybe there'll be a twist by the end. I've been pretty entertained with this game so far, and I've been playing it consistently for over a week. I really like the handling and the jumping and ducking. It almost makes it feel like you could be playing parkour with this game. There's really not too much opportunity to do that, though, because some of these maps they're too condensed, and you're always switching to ultravision, which is slower, and you're sneaking around. But the way you can slide underneath certain obstacles is useful at times, for sure. I do wish these maps were bigger, and I wish things were a little more open. But you do get to fight some awesome-looking Terminators, and eventually you get a fairly decent arsenal of weapons. And when you're getting these energy weapons and you can actually upgrade them, that's pretty awesome. All the other things they put in this game to make it different, and they still let you upgrade your energy weapons, I was not expecting that. And it's fun. Well, that's all I have today for Terminator Resistance for the PlayStation 4. If this is your type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and thanks for stopping by to take a look. Hope to catch you on another video.